Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel. So I am Nikki from VA Central, and joining me today is Letia, also from VA Central.
Hey.
So both of us are client success managers, and we like to call each other the yin to our yans because we just work so well together. I don't know if you have a colleague like that, but I hope you do because it's awesome. But we've both actually been working in objection handling for quite a few years. We also do it in our current roles, and we feel quite passionate about it. And that's why we decided we're going to do a podcast about it today so we can share our tips with you. So, the first section we are going to be covering is just understanding common objections because basically, a common objection can just fly right over your head. So, identifying common objections, they sound like it's too expensive, or we don't have the budget right now, or we are happy with our current provider, or this one I didn't know was a common objection, of course, until I've learned it. But basically, send me more information. That is an objection. Um,
Yeah.
and these are the common objections in sales, and it's so important to understand them and identify them because then you're able to handle them appropriately. But there's also a psychology to it.
Yes, the psychology behind objections. There's so many, but we're just going to touch base, like the tip of the iceberg, the ones that we face often. So fear of change is a big one. People are generally scared to try something new if it's unfamiliar. Budget constraints, always financials, and then loyalty to current providers or possibly them, their team. But we're going to, deep dive into those a little bit more. And also how objections are often a way for a prospect to gain more information to express underlying concerns. So use objections to your advantage when speaking to a prospect. Um, Active listening is extremely important. So what I mean by that when I say active listening is I feel in today's life, and I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know if it's the same with you, Nikki, but I feel people listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. It's like they already know what they want to say, and they're not really taking in what people are saying to them anymore, like what they want to say, not what they need to say. So active listening when it comes to objections is extremely important. Really listen to what the problem is. And in order for you to let your prospect know that you are listening, kind of rephrase that into your open-ended question by saying, if they say it's too expensive, saying, okay, so you are mentioning that price is a concern. So if we can get to an understanding about the price and why it's an added value, would you reconsider the product, for example? So leaving an open-ended question. So yes, one of the main things I would say is just remember to listen when people speak.
Yeah, and that's the techniques for overcoming objections. Certainly, another technique would be just building value. So people do not buy from you because of the features of your product, but they actually buy from you because of the value. So what does your product do for them? And the way you can do that is, by shifting the conversation back to the value of your product. So they're concerned about their objection, but they don't yet see the value. And you can do this by using the 4 Ps. So the 4 Ps would definitely start with personalization, perceived value, performance value, and proof. So we're going to cover this a little bit right after this in our examples. But yeah, so you can use the 4 Ps, and then also extremely important is empathy and validation because you're speaking to a person. Yes, they're a lead that you have, or they're a prospect, and yes, let's say you're calling for to book evaluation for a property. Yes, they're a person on a page, but this is an actual human being with feelings and emotions, and they've got their own stuff going on. And especially when it comes to something like a property, it's something that's so important to that person. It's a property is one of the biggest assets we can have, one of the biggest ones. So they're not just going to hop into an evaluation with you because you're asking them. They're going to be emotional. They're going to have their walls up and their guard up because they're trying to protect something. So you have to really be empathetic with them.
Added to that, Nikki, they say, especially if these are agents watching back, moving is one of the top 3 most emotional things you could ever go through. That's with divorce and death. So you can just imagine how emotional it must be for somebody to have to sell a home that they've spent 30 years of their life in. So you definitely have to be on the same page with them and really understand where they're coming from. Very important.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, let's jump straight into the examples that we'd love to give. The first example I would love to give you on how you can implement the 4 Ps is, let's say a client is telling you your price is too expensive. So you want to do personalization, right? That's the first P. So you need to use an example that's going to feel personal. So, you know what? We have a client that signed up with us a year ago. He was very concerned about the price. And this is where you're going to take it over to perceived value. So this client thought that if he had a dedicated person working for him, it would be too expensive, and that basically his business couldn't afford it. But at the same time, he was outsourcing this specific task in his business to another company, which was costing him £350 per transaction. And it actually added up quite a bit. So that's where you bring it over to performance value. So we were able to hook this client up with a VA that was able to work for him full time. But because he was only paying this one VA, instead of all these other transactions, he was actually saving 40% that he was actually spending. And also, other than just saving money, he was also saving time for himself, for his team, because now they didn't have to communicate with an external company or an external service provider. They had someone internally that knew everything that was going on in the business. They were able to just hop on calls, send a quick WhatsApp, because this person was dedicated to them. And because they were able to save time on this one task, they could spend more time on growing the business. And then you can take it over to the proof, where you can tell this client, well, here's a webinar we did with this actual sales progressor where she's talking about everything that she does for her client. Not only were they able to save money for the client, but they were able to make everything so much quicker, where the company on the outside was doing a transaction in 3 months. Her average is 6 to 8 weeks. So that's where you need to start explaining the value of your product, and that's how you're going to convert a cold call into a meeting or a discovery call.
I love that. I love that. I was raised when I started in sales, mainly in hospitality and events, with the 5 Ps, which was proper planning prevents poor performance, right? And then we transitioned into the 4 Ps, which is your personalization, perceived value, performance value, and proof. Now, guys, memorize this. You can use this in any objection in any industry. It kind of took over from the 5 Ps, right? So my example as well that I would love to use is loyalty. It's a loyalty objection. They're either too loyal to a service provider that they're already working with, or even to the staff that they have. But something that I do want to mention as well when you speak to people about loyalty is to remind them that loyalty shouldn't be to their own detriment. The client that I'm using an example was being loyal to his own detriment. He had in-house staff and he was being loyal to them. So when we initially met, he had staff. They were not great, but he also felt sorry for them. This, of course, really bogged him down with irrelevant tasks, didn't allow him to really focus on his personal life, and also caused a lot of unnecessary expenses. Long story short, we eventually were able to present him with the VA. So here comes the perceived value. This VA came in at lesser rates than what he was paying for in-house staff, and they were more efficient as well because they were not being distracted by in-office chitter-chatter and tea times. But not only did they exceed expectations when it came to their efficiency, they also started pointing out mistakes that this specific in-house staff member was making that he was loyal to. And it got to such a point where that person actually resigned and the trash took itself out. So that's where the performance value really came in. And he didn't actually just get one VA, he ended up getting the 3. We just signed up his 3rd VA. So that's really where the proof was coming in. And he loves working with us so much that he actually offered to be a reference for me. So again, where you get the proof in, would you like to speak to so-and-so to hear his thoughts from when he started and he felt he was loyal to this and that, to where he is today with us because of the service that we provide. So there we again went through the.
Amazing.
So lastly, we just want to run through the benefits that could be for your business to have a dedicated lead generation virtual assistant within your business. Why is the VA effective? Like we mentioned earlier, we work alone, so we are not distracted. So our productivity and our efficiency is generally better than being in office with a bunch of other people. I'm a great example. I like to work alone because I also do like to talk a lot. But also having a dedicated VA to do something that you can most probably also do, but don't always have the capacity to do, is really beneficial for your business. I always say you compare ability to skill. Just because it's a skill doesn't, or just because you're able to do it doesn't mean it's your skill. Sorry, I got that backwards. So just because it's an ability doesn't mean it's a skill. If this is not fee earning for you as a business owner, it's something you can delegate for lesser than what you're worth per hour. A VA can really spend time with clients. I would love to use another example of myself, if that's okay. I used to be a lead generation VA, and I actually managed the platform of multiple agents at a stage where I used to book in market appraisals for their agents. One of the examples I would like to use is I booked in a market appraisal for one of the agents that actually went out, did the valuation, and then obviously went back to the office to send out more detailed information, but never mentioned to that prospect that they could do virtual viewings as well. This prospect specifically wanted a virtual viewing done to with a property, and she didn't want to have on-site visits. When I started following up, which wasn't really part of my role, but I do like working on the nurturing side of things as well, with this prospect, she mentioned that she had approached another agent that could possibly sell her property virtually. I then said to her, but this agent should be able to do this for you as well. Are you sure that you would like to go with the other agents? They were busy with the sale or the viewings already. So I just kind of, set reminders to follow up with her as often as possible. Long story short, the first two virtual viewers, actually one of them bought her property, and the house actually sold very fast. But about 2 weeks after her property was sold, she contacted me. We still chat on WhatsApp. She'll still send me a little picture message or a little meme from time to time. And her friend wanted to sell her home. She did not refer her friend to the agent that sold the property. She referred her friend to me because of the relationship I built. And this is what makes it amazing when you have a dedicated VA helping you with your nurture journeys. People need to buy from people that relate to them, people that have something in common with them. As soon as you actually have something in common with people, they already trust you more. And we could chat about these little things because that was all I had to do. I didn't have to rush to get to different meetings. I could help my agent nurture his prospects. I could also help him check in with past sales, people that already sold or bought through him, wish them happy anniversary after having their property for a year, or just generally do a check-in and see how they were doing, because they might want to sell the property again 5 years from now, constantly reminding them about the after-sales service that specific agent offers. And that's where a VA can really make you stand out in your local area as well. Niki?
Absolutely, that story has so much value. So basically, when you get a VA working for you, or even if you're just handling your own objection, your objections for your sales, then if you use specific tools, it's really going to help you. So some of these tools could be like a CRM, so just to track every conversation, every lead. So if you're calling them back in 6 months' time, you can refer back to that conversation. They're going to be so impressed. But your secret tool is just your CRM. Then also analyzing data. So you want to have a look at which objections you're getting and what answers you're giving to the objections are working. And if you track that, it's really going to improve your objection handling. Then also what you could do is you could craft a very well-written script. So especially when you're starting out, work off of a script and then you can adjust as you go. And this will also make it easier when you're wanting to train someone, anyone joining the team that's to be handling your objections or handling all your sales calls. They're easily able to just take that script that you have refined and you've really gotten the base objection handling on there, and they're able to just run with it. So those are some tools and, tricks that you could use with your objection handling.
Yeah, just one thing I would like to add to that is having a VA, you would actually have a dedicated VoIP number in place. And that VA can be phoning from anywhere in the world, but it would look like they're calling from your area because it actually gets a dedicated area code. And you can also listen back to those conversations. So you can go and listen to the bad conversations a VA had, help them with objection handling in that way as well, and help them refine their skills. But yes, lastly, let's quickly just recap everything we discussed. So understanding objections is extremely important. Listening is extremely important. Another tip I have with objections is even if somebody's not ready now, something I like to do is ask them if they don't mind me popping them a WhatsApp. So if they have any questions going forward, they can just send me a voice note or pop me a message because we're all on the move all the time. And this is also really helping me overcome objections and actually get in touch with my prospects faster. Leveraging your VAs and then reframing conversations. And then, of course, just leveraging your VAs or your staff in general. So I would love to encourage you to join our group or our podcast on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe, like, and comment, especially if you want to see any of our future podcasts. And if you ever have any questions about what we do or how we can help you, or you have any objections that you struggle with and you would like some advice from myself and Niki, please feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so much fun, Letia, just going through our tips and tricks for objection handling. And like she said, if you want to get more of this content, you can just subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.